It's 5, and we're live.
Oh, is this thing on? I don't care. I want him to hear.
This is the Pregame Show, your early morning shot of sports on 95.7 The Game. Come on!
I'm just never prepared for how loud these headphones are every morning. Who is deaf at this station? That's what I want to know. Is it Grandy? Is it Willard? I'll give the pass to Willard. He's a little bit older. But Mark, you're like the youngest guy at the station, bro. Soon, you're going to have the worst hearing. Welcome, man. It's the Pregame Show. Joe Spadoni. Oh my God. We have so much to get into today. You guys don't even know. This Warriors offseason is about to be the most dissected offseason in the history of Bay Area offseasons when it comes to sports. More so than the 49ers losing the Super Bowl. More so, well, two of them. Well, three of them, really. More so than the Giants. What are they going to do? Oh, they signed Matt Chapman. They got Soler. They got the series won. Unless it's a 4-set. Is it a 4-gamer, Sammy? This is just 3 games, right? Yeah, we're back.
Bills against the Marlins, so, take it with a grain of salt.
Okay, hey, for this team, I will give that to them. Clutch hitting by Matt Chapman and Jorge Soler yesterday. Look at that. 2 big acquisitions in the offseason. But it pales in comparison to what this offseason is going to look like for the Golden State Warriors. Hell, the last few months, we've already been talking about it during the season because it is so anticipated what is going to happen. And now we have the head coach, Steve Kerr, finally saying, yeah, there's going to be some changes. There needs to be changes. That hasn't been the attitude of the past. Now, he's kind of speaking at both ends of his mouth because I'm hearing him say he wants to run it back, but he also wants to make changes. Well, you can't do both. Or can you? So I guess my question to you at 888-957-9570, to all you lovely people who are still working, getting off work, having breakfast. If you're East Coaster, good morning to you, Nicole Diaz of the world in Florida, Florida. Took me so long to understand, Florida meant Florida. How sad is that? Those puns for names, it goes right over my head. Speaking of big pun.
I got a joke for you, Bonte.
God, love that guy's voice. And good morning to all of you that are international, streaming us on YouTube or Twitch, powered by First NorCal Credit Union. We got lovers out in Australia. We got people out in Argentina, the Netherlands, England, Germany, Finland. I don't know about Finland. I'm just going different countries every day now. Why not? But we're basically Pitbull here on the Pregame Show. I'm basically Pitbull because I am Mr. Worldwide. I need to get the Dale drop. That's just what I need to do. But today, we're going to be reacting to what Steve Kerr had to say, what Chris Paul had to say, Andrew Wiggins, Jonathan Kaminga, Klay Thompson, because it was exit interview day for the Golden State Warriors yesterday. So we heard from everyone, and I am very fascinated because I haven't heard every single one of these clips. I'm going to be listening to a lot of these for the first time with the audience, and I'm very interested to see and hear the tone of what some of these players felt, because all those players I just mentioned have been segments in and of themselves. Just the players. Chris Paul, think about the amount of time we spent on Chris Paul and the acquisition of him and the departure of Jordan Poole last season. Just think about that. And it was just weird. I said it yesterday that if he comes back, and we'll see what happens, the Chris Paul Golden State Warrior era, period, whatever the hell you want to call it, was just weird. It was one of those where it's just we look back, Chris Paul was a Warrior? Why? That sort of thing. Well, we were saving him for the playoffs. Well, that didn't work out too well. Saved him for the play-in, and he only played 18 minutes. He's old. But I think he was a very valuable piece. Yes, on the court at times, but more so in the locker room, on the bench, as a mentor. I think That is his biggest imprint on this team and organization. It's the leadership. It's the professionalism from a Chris Paul, a guy that we love to hate prior to this season. I think a lot of Warriors fans have garnered a newfound respect for him. And maybe I'm speaking out of turn here, but I found a lot more respect for Chris Paul after this season. I didn't hear him complaining once about coming off the bench for the first time in his career. Guy's a future Hall of Famer. He's one of the greatest point guards in the history of the game. He wasn't pouting once, unlike another future Hall of Famer and a core 3 player on this team that was pouting about coming off the bench. Chris Paul did not. He came into an entirely new team, a team that he, let's be honest, hated. This is his rival. Whether it was the Clippers, whether it was the Rockets, he did not like this team. And now you had to go play with Draymond, Steph, Klay. And when I say hate, it's sports hate. These guys are all friends off the court. We're going to see LeBron James and Steph Curry, who we view as rivals on the court. They're going to be chopping it up in Paris this summer. But let's hear from Chris Paul, 888-957-9570. I guess my question this morning, are the Warriors looking to rebuild or are they looking to retool? And what do they need to be doing? Because, and you can say, Spadoni, that's semantics. Maybe rebuilding for one team isn't blowing it up. For me, a rebuild means everyone outside of Stephen Curry is for sale and we're looking to do business. That's what a rebuild looks for me. A retool is you're sticking with Steph, you're sticking with Draymond. Hell, you might even be sticking with Klay Thompson and Andrew Wiggins, and you'll see, if you can get something maybe for a Kaminga, maybe for some of the young guys. Maybe Wiggins is a part of that. Are the Warriors rebuilding or retooling this summer? Because I think Steve Kerr stated what they want to do, and I'm very interested to see what they are going to do. Chris Paul, exit interviews yesterday, talking to the media, what it was like playing for the Golden State Warriors.
It was a unique experience. You know what I mean? I'm glad I got an opportunity to play with the guys that I did, get a chance to meet new people, play for an organization I never would have imagined I played for. But, I'm grateful for the experience. And, yeah.
Yep. That's all you can say about that. He's grateful for the experience. Again, the professionalism from Chris Paul was very impressed with. The leadership he bestowed in empowering the young guys on this team, on a team that struggled with empowering the young players and giving them a voice. I heard Brandon Pajemski's voice a lot this year. And I think a lot of Warriors fans did not like hearing his voice a lot. The Pajemski, I'm not going to say hate, but the constant comparisons between him and Moses Moody are fascinating. Well, Steve Kerr had some interesting thoughts on that yesterday with Willard and Dibbs. You can find that entire interview from Steve Kerr on YouTube, or you can download the Odyssey app and favorite 95.7 The Game. But he empowered the Pajemskis, the Trace Jackson Davis, working with him, working with Jonathan Kaminga, working with Moses Moody, integrating those guys into this team more and more so than Steph, Dre, or Klay ever did. And maybe it's easier to have an outside voice come in and be that guy. Because for Steph, Dre, and Klay, and to an extent Steve Kerr, they were so engrossed and ingrained in championship culture, maybe they needed a guy that had never won before, that knew what it takes, I should say, to develop the youth and prepare that championship type of culture. Because I know he's never won a championship, but Chris Paul, let's be honest, he's a Hall of Famer. He's been to a championship. I mean, that's as close as you can get to a championship mindset without winning it. I mean, is John Stockton, Karl Malone, Steve Nash, guys like that, any less of a player because they didn't win a title? I don't think so. Chris Paul is still one of the greatest in the history of the game. In his wisdom and value when it comes to the game of basketball cannot be overstated. More from CP3 on the possibility of returning next year. He has the player option. Let's see.
I'm open to all, things. I think right now what's on my mind probably is getting back, spending some time with my family, seeing them. I'm forever grateful to the organization and whatnot and how much they allowed me to get back and see my family as much. It's a big summer. Our team came up short, but it was a tough season. Another hand surgery number 5. All in all, it was fun battling with these guys. I just hope at some point I can get out there and play and try to make a bigger impact.
We'll see. That's basically what I took from that. We'll see. I don't think he's coming back. Personally, I don't think that's happening. Again, I said it was a very odd year for a multitude of reasons. I think Chris Paul I don't think this would have been on his first, little book here if he was doing destinations of where he wants to go and finish his career potentially. I don't think he had Golden State at the top. I'll just leave it at that. He might have had the Lakers up there. Now, he was a Laker for like 24 hours. Remember that back in the day? Little David Stern in the league nixed that deal. Joke. Does he finish his career out going back to the Clippers or something like that? Right? Going back to, it's not the Hornets anymore, but New Orleans. Pelicans. I'm interested to see what Chris Paul does because I do think he still has something left in the tank on the court. And as I've just been saying the last couple minutes, definitely in the locker room and on that bench, being a mentor and being a leader. And do you want Chris Paul back? Dub Nation, simple as that. 888-957-9570. Do you want Chris Paul back in a Golden State Warriors uniform? From the Xfinity mobile text line, 408. I love getting these as the first text in the morning. How does Curry's poor performance in an elimination game and another missed playoff appearance affect his legacy? Is he even a top 10 player, Sammy? Psh. See, I did that. He didn't say Sammy, but I integrate that. Kind of like when I'm reading my book to my child, young Benjamin. I put his name in there when it wasn't supposed to be. He's like, wow, this book's actually about me. I was like, yeah, dude, they're talking to you. It's crazy. Imagination.
You put Benny's name in, right?
Yes. There you go. Of course.
Just making sure.
Yes. Oh, no. I put my name in there.
Or mine,
Okay. Yeah, sure. How does Curry's... Come on. A play-in game isn't affecting a legacy, please. Although Siney did say it was a legacy game. Not for Steph, but I think for Andrew Wiggins and Klay Thompson. I mean, not that it's going to sour the taste of winning multiple championships for Klay Thompson being a Hall of Famer, winning that championship, being the second best player on the championship team, and during that run, being Andrew Wiggins. But it is going to be something you look back on and say it didn't end well. That is something for Warriors fans like, yeah, I wish it ended better with Klay. Yeah, I wish it ended with Andrew Wiggins. Now, their time is not over yet. Andrew Wiggins is under contract. Klay Thompson, we'll see. And we'll get to Klay because he had a lot to say yesterday. A little surly Klay Thompson, but are we shocked about that? The guy that used to have nothing faze him suddenly is fazed by everything, it feels like, in the last couple seasons. That happens when you have, major surgery and major injuries in your sports career. But did that affect Curry's legacy the last 2 years in elimination games? No. If anything, I think it just goes to show you that Stephen Curry needs help. And that's okay. And yes, he is still a top 10 player in the history of the league. He's one of the greatest players ever, and he is the greatest shooter in the history of basketball. He might be the greatest point guard in the history of basketball. I still put Magic over him, but he's right there. That's why getting that fifth is so important to tie a guy like Magic, to tie a guy like Tim, Duncan, Kobe Bryant, etc. That's why they want that fifth. Not just for them, but for what it means looking up to those players growing up like Stephen Curry has. So no, the last 2 years have not affected his legacy. His legacy is sealed. But what is the ending going to look like? That is the question. Right now, it's not looking great. That's why this offseason is crucial for this team. What are they? What do they think they are? That's up to Mike Dunleavy, Steve Kerr, Joe Lacob. Is this a championship roster? No, it's not. How do they become one? Is it that easy? Is it, swallowing your pride and knowing, they might have to retool for a year, rebuild for a year. And the expectations just can't be championship. Now, that's never going to be the case because we had callers left and right the last couple of weeks saying they could be a play-in team and they could go on a magical run. I heard the word magic and not referencing Orlando way too many times the last couple of weeks. I said a run for them would be like a first-round series. I thought that could have been valuable for guys like Jonathan Kaminga, Moses Moody, Pajemski, Trace Jackson Davis. That could have been great. But it was one and done. And everyone looked bad. Outside of Moses Moody. And what's going to happen with that guy going forward? Andrew Wiggins. As we go from Chris Paul to Andrew Wiggins, again, we're talking exit interviews. All the players talked to the media yesterday outside of Stephen Curry and Draymond Green, who talked after the play-in game, which was basically their own little exit interview. But we'll be hearing from Steph in a few months. Olympics, baby. What was that, July, August, whatever that is? But Andrew Wiggins, I've said it at the trade deadline. I said it at the beginning of the season. I'm saying it until they do it. They need to move off of him. They need to trade this guy. He's 29 years old. I don't even know. And Bonte made a great point yesterday in the Morning Roast. I don't even know if you can say this is the prime of his career anymore. I mean, he's averaging the worst career stats. He's like 13.2 points he averaged this year. By far the worst of his career. 4.5 boards, 1.7 assists, shooting just 45% from the field. Even his rookie season in Minnesota, which was 10 years ago, by the way. Time flies. Damn. He was averaging 17 points. His first 2 years, check that. The last 2 years in Golden State, averaging 17. Prior to that, it was 18. It was 19. His highest he's ever even averaged is 23 points. That was back in 2016, 2017. You cannot continue to put your faith in Andrew Wiggins. Not as a number 2, not as a number 3, not as a number 4. Yeah, he might be a starter, but is he a starter on a championship team? I'm not so sure. He can't be a guy that gives you 15 points in above average defense, and you could be okay with that. I don't see it. I don't. In every other game, he's giving you less than that. He's giving you 8, he's giving you 7, and he looks lost out there. Here's Wiggins talking yesterday, asked if he's aware that there may be big moves this offseason.
Yeah, I mean, you never know. We never know what could happen. Who's going to be here, who won't. You never know. That's the NBA. All you can do is, take care of what you can take care of, what you can control.
And I want to be very clear with this. I am not talking about Andrew Wiggins off the court. I am not talking about his missed time. I am strictly talking about his basketball play on the court. I do not care that he missed time for a family matter. That is his deal. That is all on him. That has nothing to do with me. I am talking about how his play affects the team on the court. And his presence affects the team on the court. And it's been inconsistent at best. And I think Andrew Wiggins is a great barometer for how this team is. Because if I was to describe this Warriors season with one of the players, it would be the Andrew Wiggins season. A roller coaster. Never knowing what you're going to get. And there was a lot more downs than ups. Not even close. Trying to think of what roller coaster comp he would even be. To go to my roller coaster index. Not a big roller coaster guy. Yeah, I was always kind of scared of him when I was younger. Then I eventually got over that fear like in middle school and high school. It's not really my thing. I'm more of the arcade at the boardwalk guy and playing the games. That's me. Get a nice tan. Although I'm sure if you guys are watching me on Twitch and YouTube, you're like, Spadoni, you can get tan. Yes, I don't always look like a vampire like this. It's just when you get up at 4 a.m, you get a little tired when you get back home when it's all sunny and warm, and you want to take a nap. Sam can sympathize. He gets it. Sam Lubman gets great tans. More from Andrew Wiggins, asked to evaluate his season as a whole.
My season was not too good. Not great. I feel like I started picking it up the second half of the season, but the first half wasn't too good. Team-wise, I feel like we were really good the second half of the season. We were figuring stuff out. But it's unfortunate that it, had to end this way.
He has the realization he didn't have a great year. That's the first step. I mean, if he had said, I actually thought I was pretty good this year, it'd be concerning. So he understands this isn't up to his standard. It's up to the Golden State Warriors standard. For the 415 on the Xfinity mobile text line, we're talking exit interviews. Chris Paul, Andrew Wiggins, Jonathan Kaminga, Klay Thompson speaking to the media yesterday. Steve Kerr on with Willard and Dibbs yesterday had some very interesting thoughts. We'll get to that as well as Kaminga and Klay. But from the 415 on the Xfinity mobile text line, number one, this is his list of things that need to happen this offseason. Chris Paul, gone. Number two, Wiggins on the trade block, gone. And number three, re-sign and reduce role for Klay. I think all those are on the table. And honestly, if I had to put my odds and all those things happening for a percentage, I'd say it's 75%. Those all come to fruition. I don't think Klay Thompson is gone. I don't. If I had to bet money, I'd say he returns in a different role. I would say they would try to trade Andrew Wiggins. And I do believe Chris Paul wants to go elsewhere. I do not believe money is going to be a huge factor for him trying to stay and pick up that player option and all that sort of stuff. Apparently it's non-guaranteed though, whatever that. I need to look in the financials, and I'm sure Anthony Slater will talk all about it today with the morning roast. 8 o'clock, Sammy, Anthony Slater, thumbs up. He's playing with his hair back there. He doesn't know. He's checked out. But Anthony Slater, I believe, 8 o'clock, morning roast, Bonte Hill, Joe Shasky. Check it out there. Finally, Andrew Wiggins asking about, how he deals with potential offseason trade rumors.
I mean, I take care of what I can take care of. When it's out of my control, I don't worry about it. All I can do is, work hard, train hard, and do what I can do.
Control what you can control. That's all any of us can do. And for these guys, yes, there is a human aspect to it because these guys have families that they're tight with. It's not like it's as simple as, well, we're getting traded to Detroit. All right, guys, let's all go. Come on, hurry up. No, these people have, made connections here. Kids gone to school. They've made friends. The significant others, they have friends. They've ingrained themselves. These guys are parts of the community. It's not as simple as that. So I am empathetic to the situations these guys go through. Again, none of this is personal. It's all in the court. It is pretty crazy that he's been here for 5 seasons now. Andrew Wiggins. Came in 2019. Played 12 games. Man, time does fly. It's crazy. But again, I'm going back to if I had to describe this past season using a Golden State Warriors player, it'd be Andrew Wiggins. I did not know what I was going to get. Day in, day out, night in, night out. From the 408 on the Xfinity mobile text line, 888-957-9570, weigh in, call or text. Financially, the Warriors are limited. The only way Curry is getting a fifth is if he ring chases and goes someplace else. So that's it. It's over. It's done. Sure feels like that when it comes to championships, but I'm not ready to count out Stephen Curry winning a fifth here in Golden State just yet. A lot of things have to go right. A lot of things have to happen. But I need to see how this playoffs and play-in tournament shakes out. By the way, last night, the 76ers taking care of business, advancing as the 7th seed, defeating the Miami Heat. Jimmy Butler leaving the game with an MCL injury. He's going to be out indefinitely. Tough break for playoff Jimmy. We all thought, hey, the Heat advance, they can give the Celtics a hell of a time. Jimmy Butler, they could win that series. Now, potentially, they're going to be out of the play-in altogether. They're going to take on the Chicago Bulls, and Kobe White having a career high in a play-in game, 42 points in a win over the not hot Atlanta Hawks. So, Sixers advance, Bulls v. Heat. It's going to be when? Friday? And then the winner of that will have the luxury and opportunity of playing the Boston Celtics and probably getting waxed in that first round series. Definitely no Jimmy Butler. He'd have no shot. No shot. They might win a game just because I have that much respect for Eric Spoelstra and Bam Adebayo and co. But it's going to be tough. Sixers, on the other hand, they got action. They could beat the New York Knicks, who are the number 2 seed. And we're going to monitor guys like Joel Embiid. We're going to monitor guys like Giannis Antetokounmpo. Because that's the only other way Steph does win his 5th in a Golden State Warriors uniform is if they get a bona fide true star number 2 player. Because that's what you need in today's NBA. That is what you have needed in the history of basketball and in sports. It's never just one guy, unless you're talking about golf. You got a caddy. Talking tennis, you got a team. In individual sports, I'm not going to count those totally, but in team sports, it's never just one guy. Ever. Speaking of one guy that was polarizing and still is, and what's going to happen this offseason with him, Jonathan Kaminga. We're going to hear from him on the other side about how he felt his season went, all that communication with Steve Kerr and the coaching staff, losing confidence in them early on, getting that confidence back. All of that. We'll hear from Kaminga. We'll hear from Klay Thompson and Steve Kerr on the other side right here on the pregame show. Joe Spadoni, 95.7 The Game.
Made to shine. Real stories from Shane Company customers.
We met later in life. I liked his dimples.
Both of our spouses had passed away, and we never expected to remarry.
That's the funny thing about love. It has its own agenda.
I wanted to get her a ring that celebrated our future.
Got me excited. Feel tingling. What's the NFL draft sounder? I'm excited. 1 week away from the NFL draft. What's going to happen? Well, we know Caleb Williams is going number 1 overall to Chicago. Is Jaden Daniels going number 2 overall? It's certainly sounding like that. Drake May, is he going to New England? Is it going to be J.J. McCarthy, who apparently is now one of the top quarterback I just still don't get that. In no world is J.J. McCarthy a top 10 pick. Hell, is he even a first-round pick? It's the draft, though. Anything could happen, and it will. 1 week away. What are the Niners going to do? Are they going to make a trade up in the draft? Are they going to make a big trade on draft night? Brandon Ayuk. We'll see. If my money, again, was on it, I'd say Brandon Ayuk remains a 49er, and they figure this thing out because, as the Niners have done in the past when it comes to contract negotiations, maybe it takes a little bit longer than we all want it to be, but at the end of the day, they usually, more often than not, get it done. The Warriors did not get it done. They did the opposite of that. They got bounced out and got humbled in Sacramento. Night, night, see you later. Their season's over. And are they rebuilding or retooling? 888-957-9570. A guy that is polarizing for many reasons. And he's not on the Draymond Green or Jimmy Garoppolo level, but man, the amount of conversations we have had about Jonathan bleeping Kaminga this year. Do you trade him? Should he want out? Should you play him more? Should he be off the bench? Should Wiggins taking his spot? Like, so many different avenues and lanes to talk about Jonathan Kaminga. But I want to hear from the man himself on how he views the season, being extension eligible, and his future with the Warriors, all of it.
I view it as I would say, a great experience. A lot of learning, listen. Oh, wow. I didn't even think of that. That's just something that I think my agent going to be working on it. Right now, I'm just going to focus on my mental, my body, and everything will handle itself.
So he was like, I haven't even thought about being extension eligible. He's like, oh, what? I mean, the guy's 21. He's 21 years old. It's crazy. And the potential is sky high. Ask about his future with Golden State.
I love it here. Like I said, I love it here, and the rest of the things going to handle itself. So.
888-957-9570.
Really quick, Spadoni, I'm going to interrupt your show, but Shasky wants to know if you want anything from Pete's.
Oh, that's a great question. Pete's Coffee. Yes, can I get a large cold brew, light ice if possible, with some oat milk in there? Can we do that?
All right, we'll make that happen.
Thank you. Making it happen here. It was very nice of Joe asking. Because right now, I'm more of a tea guy lately, but we don't have any honey here. We're all out of honey. And I have to use this sweetener that's just really gross. I put too much of it in there, and I'm just tasting the sweetener. I'm not tasting this nice Earl Grey tea like I'm Jean-Luc Picard on the Enterprise. It's just, it's not happening. So thank you, Joe. Back to Jonathan Kaminga. He loves it here. He wants to stay a Warrior for life. He said that earlier. His favorite player growing up, and there's pictures of him, is Kobe Bryant. Kobe stayed a Laker for life. He looks up to him, and he wants to be like that with Golden State. Now, in today's age, it's rare. Like, the chances of that happening, I would say, are slim. But if Warriors pivot and start to make Jonathan Kaminga more of the focal point and start to see the writing on the wall that Stephen Curry's time here in the Golden State may be coming to an end sooner rather than later, I mean, the guy's just getting older. It is what it is. It's old. Age sucks. But the future, I should say, the children are our future. And not that he's a child. He's a 21-year-old man. But in terms of the NBA, he is a baby. He's 21. By the way, Victor Wembanyama, is he like 19? Oh, that's scary. Again, youth, size, athleticism is all in the Western Conference right now. That's why a guy like Jonathan Kaminga is so damn important for this team going forward, because those guys are everywhere out west. I just named Victor Wembanyama. You can go Anthony Edwards. You can go John Morant. You can go, Jalen Green. Some of the teams I haven't even mentioned. Some teams that we weren't even talking about in the playoffs. I just saw this kid, Kobe White, out of UNC. We all know Kobe White. Hey, I want to see him instead of the Heat because I want to see what he can do in a series against Boston. And for that young team. Like, that's a player that Chicago fans are finally excited about for the first time since who? Derrick Rose? I got a tough injury, though. Alex Caruso, I guess, has a severe sprained foot. Brutal. You guys know I love me some Alex Caruso. The Crew Show, as I call him. More from Jonathan Kaminga. By the way, we're listening to the exit interviews from Golden State Warriors players yesterday. They spoke to the media, their last media obligations. Steve Kerr as well spoke with Willard and Dibbs yesterday. We'll get to that sound a little bit later, as well as Klay Thompson, who had an interesting response in opening up with Anthony Slater, who will be joining the Morning Roast at 8 o'clock as he does each and every week. Jonathan Kaminga on his biggest area of growth this season. This was interesting.
It was more about communication. And communication is the key to everything. No matter how that communication come out, but there is definitely got to be a better communication. I think that was the biggest growth. And I just spoke to Steve not too long ago. We had a couple good communication this year, and he told me that's the most thing he was proud of me beside basketball. Like, that was the biggest thing that he was really proud of me about, just being able to communicate with him and communicate with my teammate better and the stuff.
I want to commend Jonathan Kaminga's communication right there. I mean, English being his second language, that's much improved. I'm very impressed for a guy that, speaks English and some broken Spanish and some curse words in Italian. Hey, shout out Jonathan Kaminga. Just think about that real quick. And Shasky's been on this and Bonte. But you're 21. You're on a team with Draymond Green, Klay Thompson, and Stephen Bleepin Curry. You're playing for Steve Kerr, a guy that is decorated beyond all hell. He played with Michael freaking Jordan. He's won so many titles. You're playing for an owner that wants to win, built this new stadium, win, no matter what. Will pay no matter what to win. And by the way, you're the future of this team because James Wiseman was a bust. So, hey, you better start balling out. And he has to compartmentalize all of that, all the communication from those guys with a language barrier. Now that barrier looks like it's pretty much down now. Do all that, compartmentalize all that, and find a role in a team where it's very hard to find a role and with players that haven't had the greatest track record, we'll say, when it comes to developing young talent. Again, this goes back to Chris Paul, and I think he was a major key to Jonathan Kaminga and these young guys as well. But I'll give credit to Steve Kerr right there because Jonathan Kaminga just referenced him. I thought Steve Kerr, who I feel like is getting unfairly crushed for this season, I think we need to give him his flowers when it comes to some of these young guys. And I get it, the Moses Moody one sticks in the craw for a lot of people. Jonathan Kaminga as well, but I think Jonathan Kaminga, you can be excited about his future now. Prior to this season, I didn't know what his future was. I think most, if not all, Warriors fans are excited about the possibility of what he can be. Whether that's a number one, I don't think that is. A number two, maybe? I think you can get excited about that. Maybe a future All-Star? That's huge. More from Jonathan about how he's ready to take a next step as a scorer.
I'll say I'm very ready, and I'm confident the work that I'm going to put in this summer to come back and be that guy that they're going to rely on sometimes. And like I said, I feel like I'm going to be ready for anything, any moment, or anything that's going to be there for me.
Oh, I had my mic off. Sam was just looking at me. I just pulled a Ray Ratto. Oh, I miss Ray, by the way, at the station. Gonna keep it a buck. I love messing with that guy. His disdain for Christian Pulisic and American soccer just made me love him even more because I would just stick it in there all the time. By the way, Christian Pulisic and AC Milan, balling this year. Let's go. Like, come on. Serie A, like Chelsea, they clearly miss Pulisic. Clearly. But that's English Premier League, Serie A talk. Champions League talk, real quick. We're up against it. And I'm going to get to that 415 text about the rat on the table coming up on the other side because there is a big rat. But Man City, gone. Arsenal, gone. If I look at the standings, correct me if I'm wrong, are all the Premier League teams now out of the Champions League? We got Bayern advancing. There we go, right here. Real quick. We got Real Madrid advancing. And we've got PSG and Dortmund. There we go. Wow. EPL. Night. We got Germany. We got France. And we got Spain. And we got the morning roast coming up. Not next, but after that, Bonte and Joe Shasky. More pregame show. More of your thoughts on Kaminga, Chris Paul, Wiggins, and this guy coming up, Klay Thompson, who got a little surly with our Anthony Slater.
Not to brag, but Progressive's Name Your Price tool is mankind's greatest tool ever. Even better than the wheel.
95.7 The Game.
Thanks, Tim. Tim Roy, hell of a job this year. Kevin Dana, everyone involved in the pre- and post-game coverage. Mark Grandy, Evan Giddings, Sterling Bennett. Everyone did a great job this year. As the Warriors season's over, that means exit interviews. We've heard from Chris Paul. We've heard from Andrew Wiggins. We've heard from Jonathan Kaminga. Now, we hear from a guy who is a future statue guy, a Hall of Famer, one of the greatest shooters, probably the greatest not named Stephen Curry in the history of basketball, Klay Thompson. Getting a little surly with Anthony Slater. Take a listen to this. Very first interaction of yesterday's exit interview with Klay Thompson. And it's our own Anthony Slater, 95.7 The Game, Warriors insider, covers the team for The Athletic, does a great job talking to him.
Your future with the Warriors heading into this offseason that feels obviously pretty unknown.
We don't want to talk about the season first. You want to talk about the future? That was a lot of games played, man. That was a pretty big accomplishment. What's up with y'all not wanting to live in the present, bro? It's ridiculous. Anyways, what was your question?
Okay. That's how we're going to do it. Really? And listen, I was of the mindset, and I still am, I thought Klay Thompson had a lot going on this year. He had to rifle with, the reality of him no longer being that dude anymore. No longer being that number 2 next to Steph. Being a bench player. And coming to grips with reality that you're no longer the player you once were because you've had 2 major injuries and you're getting old. Harrison freaking Barnes was ISOing. That's a word. He was hunting you. Like the Predator and Arnold Schwarzenegger. Harrison Barnes was hunting your ass late in that play-in game. The guy we all like to make fun of because he came up short in that 2016 finals. He was cooking them. And Klay Thompson has meant a lot for this organization. He means a lot to a lot of Warriors fans. And it sucks that it's ending this way, but Klay is not making it any easier with comments like that to Anthony Slater, who's just asking a question about your future. Because that is the question, Klay. Not this current season, which sucked, which stunk. It was very disappointing season. And yeah, you showed some flashes. You bought in eventually. And he gets credit for doing that because you know what? He has a guy on his team that cost this team a lot in Draymond Green. And in comparison, Klay came out looking a lot better because Draymond Green is on his team, and that is not what a great teammate looks like. But I don't think Klay was the best teammate early on. He got better, found his role, and I believe that helped him and the team going forward to the end of the season. It ended horribly. He didn't even make a damn shot. So yes, we're thinking about the future because you were lingering on the court after the loss. You were talking about, and you were asked about in shoot around the future. And for a guy that's been living in the past the last few seasons, thank you, Joe. I needed this. Thank you. For a guy that's been living in the past in Klay Thompson, it's funny that he wants to talk about this current season. Because I think it's one to forget for the whole team, to keep it a buck. Whether you're Andrew Wiggins, whether you're Draymond Green, Klay, Steph didn't even have that great of a season. I mean, Jonathan Kaminga, I think he was the star of the show. Like his emergence this year, Pajemski, all the young guys. That was the story. I don't give a damn about this past season. I care about the future of Klay Thompson. And what does that future look like? Here's Klay talking about lingering on the court after the Sacramento loss.
Some of the things going through my head. Well, the first one, just disappointment because to not shoot the ball well, obviously. Big old donut, so that wasn't very fun. I did look up in the nosebleeds, though, and I did see a man wearing a number 11 jersey. That made me happy, considering my history in Sacramento, from playing a state championship there to playing the Kings in the playoffs. That was kind of a full circle moment for me. So that was actually a good moment, just seeing that Warriors fan standing by his lonesome up in the 300 level, repping 11. That made me grateful.
888-957-9570. Klay Thompson, what do you do with him? What are we doing? And I'm not talking about his past season. Sorry, Klay. Don't give a damn. Care about the future of this team, because this team has been living in the past for too long, and we need to start thinking about the future in Golden State. And is he a part of it? Does he want to be a part of it? He says he hasn't given it much thought.
To be honest, I really haven't given it much thought, because what I previously just said about the season we had and how much commitment it takes to play the games we did and give it our all. So I really haven't thought about that deep in the future, because I still need to process the year we had, and it was one filled with ups and downs, but ultimately I personally and our team did everything we could to try and, win as many games as we possibly could.
Talking exit interviews right now on the pregame show. Joe Spadoni, Bonte Hill, and Joe Shasky. They're coming up next in about 5 minutes. Morning roast. They'll have Anthony Slater, the guy that asked Klay that question on at 8 o'clock, as well as David B. Fleming, the voice of the San Francisco Giants for NBC Sports Bay Area, and also our 95.7 The Game Giants insider. Giants winning that series against the Florida Marlins. Steve Kerr on Willard and Dibbs yesterday asked if he's worried Klay won't want to return.
I'm really not. Of course, he has every right to do so. And one of the benefits of being a free agent is just the freedom that comes with it. And it'll be nice for Klay to have some options. And I think that's one of the things that freed him up a little bit at the end of the year. It's just, not having the burden of anything going forward. Just, hey, play it out and let's see what happens this summer. And so he's in a good spot in that regard. But I know Klay really well. I know he loves it here. I know how much we all love him. I think he should be a Warrior for life, and I just think that he's still got some good years left in him. And but what we have to figure out organizationally is, what does that look like on the floor? The business stuff will be taken care of. That stuff will be negotiated, all that stuff. But what does our team look like next year? We have to put the pieces together, because I think Klay's a part of it, and I think Draymond and Steph, I think they should be Warriors for life, and that's not just a sentimental thought. We still need all three guys. They're all three still very good players, but it's just different now than it was 3-4 years ago. So we have to piece together the roster and see how we can improve.
So rare in today's day and age for one player, let alone three, to remain with a certain team for the entirety of their career. Hell, Lionel Messi, Barcelona, right? Forever, since he was 9 or something? I don't know, I had those soccer academies when they're kids, so they're there forever. Even he moved on to PSG, Paris Saint-Germain. And then moving to Miami FC. By the way, they coming out to San Jose this year? Well, I need to see Messi once in my life. Is he going to do a last hurrah? Is he going to be the World Cup in a couple years? Come on. Just hang out a couple more years. Lionel, please. I want to see that guy play. But we would all love that. We would all love our favorite players to remain with that team forever. But that's not always the case. And he does have the power, as Steve Kerr alluded to. And it is nice to be in control for once of where you want to go. And does he feel, I should say, wanted by this team? I think the Warriors have made it very known they want Klay back. And for a guy that, listen, clearly has been in his feelings, a little bit more emotional, not saying that's a bad thing, but I think we've seen a different Klay Thompson post-injuries than we saw prior. And that's normal. That's natural. I mean, the guy's had 2 major injuries. The guy's been on the lowest of the lows, got back, won a championship. That championship, I think, went a little bit to his head, thinking he was the player he still, or once was, I should say. No longer that guy, and that was hard for him to come to terms with the last 2 seasons.
Spadoni. Kiki, do you love me? Drake, in the feelings.
Thank you. That's Joe Shasky on the board, ladies and gentlemen. He's feeling himself right there, like Mac Dre.
Track money, Benny.
Hey, he's wearing his Giants hat. He's all in on the Giants right now. Huge series win for your San Francisco Giants. Big win for you.
They hadn't won in Florida in 8 years.
Oh, my goodness. That's like the Warriors beating the Orlando Magic in Florida. It just doesn't happen. But you know it does happen.
That's like me winning an argument with Bonte.
On 95.7 The Game.
You're listening to 95.7 The Game, KGMZ FM in HD1 San Francisco.